Episode number 15.
Your happiness, your satisfaction with where you are in the world, personally or professionally, is a choice.
Welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff, where we talk about solutions, tips, and tricks for social marketers and businesses.
Well, hello and welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff. I am fired up today to bring you our featured guest, Jason Falls. Jason, are you ready to be real?
I'm always ready, and I'm always real.
Yes. Jason is a nationally recognized author, speaker, and digital strategist, and he's also the SVP of Social and Digital at Elasticity. I'm sorry.
Right.
So tell us more, Jason. How can our listeners get to know you?
Well, that's the surface stuff. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I like bourbon. I've got 2 kids. I host a podcast on being a badass.
I love it.
Primarily because I didn't want to host a podcast on marketing because everybody and their brothers got one on marketing. And I wanted to do something a little different. So mine's really more of a kind of a lifestyle exploring, people who are interesting and kind of march to the beat of their own drum. It's called 100 Proof, the Badass Radio Show, if anybody's interested in that.
I love it. Yeah. I'm gonna have to check it out on my podcast on the iPod.
There you go. And I'm also I was born in the town the Hatfields are from, and I was raised in the town the McCoys are from, which means I either am or am closely related to white trash. So there you go.
You're classic. And can you tell me a little more about do you have a favorite bourbon?
Yes, I do. My favorite bourbon is actually not in stock at the moment, which is heartbreaking. It's Elijah Craig 18 year. And they have had a shortage because the bourbon boom, you think about it, the master distiller at Heaven Hill 18 years ago had to predict the demand in order to have, enough supply to not run out. And Nobody 18 years ago could have predicted that the bourbon boom would have exploded the way it has over the last 5 or 6 years. So they've got an 18-month outage of my favorite, which is Elijah Craig 18. But Elijah Craig 12 year there's perfect stock of that. And so I keep that on hand at the house. But there's the thing about bourbon is it doesn't matter what I like. It matters what you like. And so it's finding the bourbon that fits your taste palette well. And you don't see a lot of people who know bourbon saying, well, that's not a good bourbon. It may not be a good bourbon for me, but it's perfectly fine for you. And everybody's cool with that.
So, and I've heard that it kind of everyone's palates are different. It affects everyone a little different. So, like you mentioned, it just take it on, try it out, and see which one makes best for you.
Yeah, I mean, some people like sweeter bourbons that are softer on the palate. Some people like high proof bourbons that burn going down. It's all in whatever wets your whistle.
Nice. Whatever wets your whistle. I love it. So tell us, we're going to start with a Be Real story.
Okay.
Take us to a time or tell us a story about when you failed at social marketing.
Oh, man. So, this was more of an accident really than a full failure, but it was probably one of the worst days that I've had as a social marketer. I had just started. I did a 2-year stint as vice president for digital strategy at Cafe Press. I'd only been there for 2 weeks. And we had a partnership, a licensed partnership. This was in early December. For the movie A Christmas Story, and we had just come out with a custom store where you could go and put, your name and your face in the pink bunny outfit, and there were a couple of other, A Christmas Story images and whatnot you could use to make your own custom shirts and coffee mugs and all that good stuff. And so one of our internal guys on the promotions team said, "Hey, we'd love it if you would tweet about this." And I said, "Oh, absolutely, sure." So I went over to the store, and I was in the middle of meetings all day, so I wasn't watching social media or the news or anything like that. And I went over and I saw the store, and I saw, okay, here's an iPhone case, and it mentions, the BB gun incident. Don't put your eye out. And so I linked to that and threw it out there in between meetings at like 11 o'clock. Well, it just so happened that was the day of the Newton, Connecticut shooting.
Wow.
And so I put this tweet out there, and within like 20 minutes, and I didn't go back online for like 20 minutes. And I only went online because I started getting text messages from friends saying, dude, you've got to take that down. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't know what was going on in the world. And so I immediately threw open, Twitter and opened it up and looked, and I was getting hammered, man. And rightfully so. I absolutely just totally made a mistake. And there were some people that were really upset, and I was getting hammered unreasonably. But at the same time, I took the tweet down. I immediately apologized. I said, guys, I've been locked in meetings all morning. I had no idea what happened in Connecticut. That was incredibly inappropriate of me. It was really a genuine accident. I'm so horribly sorry.
Right.
And because I had just started a new job, I was on the brand side for the first time in a long time. Everybody saw it as, this, sick social media marketers just trying to sell shit.
Right.
And it was a complete accident. And it was a good exercise for me to go through. But I did what I would advise any client to do, which is act as quickly as possible, be as open, transparent, and forthcoming as possible, and just own it. You made a mistake, own it. And that's what I did. And, within a few hours, most of the criticism died down and people sort of understood that I was behind the gun on that one. But, well, that's a bad analogy, but but I was locked in a conference room and I was working on work and I wasn't paying attention to the news of the world. So it was a good lesson learned that if you're going to if you're going to tweet something, make sure you're paying attention to what's going on in the world before you pull a trigger like that. That's another bad analogy.
Yes, and I completely agree with you. And everything in social is a life lesson. I mean, we're all taking chances and risks, and there's a possibility that you do a post and then something happens, and you can't control what's going to happen in the world. So there's no right or wrong answer. The biggest thing is, like you said, is just own it. Have that open, honest approach where you say you're sorry. And a lot of people will be there very thankful and feel like, oh, this is human. People are human. They really forgive each other. What the things that the times that it goes negative is when people try to act like it didn't happen,
right.
And try to just delete it and kind of never address it. But now take us to a real moment. Take us to a real moment where we feel social completely changed your mindset about marketing.
Wow. Completely changed my mindset about marketing. I think the only thing that really comes to mind for me there is just that social in and of itself changes your mindset about marketing. Now I have been using social media for, well over 10 years. I was blogging in the late 90s before it was called blogs. And I've always been curious about connecting and communicating with people from around the world online. So one of the first times I ever logged into a computer bulletin board back in the late 80s, I was in a chat room, an old antiquated chat room, trying to see how far away from where I lived I could find someone to talk to. So I've been fascinated with this platform, the internet, and the technology for years. But when I first started really thinking about social media from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, it really does change your entire mindset about marketing, because marketing used to be, we have a message that we're trying to get out to an audience to try to persuade them to either buy something or think differently about us or something like that. That was marketing in a nutshell up until probably, 1990 or so.
Right.
Social media comes into the equation in the late 90s, early 2000s. And remember, back then you had the Enron scandal, you had Halliburton, you had the Canned Spam Act came out. Consumers were jumping up and down saying, hey, we don't want advertising. You had the advent of satellite radio, the advent of satellite television services in the mid 1990s, and so it was a consumer movement over 10 or 20 years to basically get away from marketing. All of these little signals were consumers don't want ads, they don't want people to sell them stuff, right. And so social media basically gave consumers their voice back. and allowed the population, the crowd, the target audiences, if you will, to say, hey, wait a minute, we don't want marketing the way you're using it, the way you're doing it. We're okay. We understand we still need to communicate or receive communications from brands. We still want to shop. We still want a comparison, all that good stuff. Some of us still want coupons. But the way you guys are doing it, brands, is wrong. And that's what social media did. It came about for consumers. And then as marketers got to it, consumers were like, oh, wait just a minute. That's not going to fly here. We came here because we wanted to get away from your spammy crap.
Right.
So social media in and of itself changes the way you think about marketing if you understand why people are connecting online, what they're doing online, and what their behavior is.
Absolutely. And it is a lot more than marketing. I just think that there's such a powerful tool for the real awesome content marketers out there that are creating these amazing stories and not just spamming, if you want to call it, on social profiles, because you see it too often that, although things have changed, some of the marketers and ad agencies haven't changed their strategies. They're same thing as it's been since the 90s or 80s. And I like the fact that, the coolest part now is it's just allowing that transparency between you as a brand and the customer. And it's a one-on-one relationship. So now take us to your most epic social marketing moment. You've told us, about how it's kind of changed your mindset about marketing. Now take us to a moment where you're like, wow, that retweet just blew my mind.
I think my most epic moment, for me is always coming up with an idea or doing something that a client or the company that I'm working for benefits from, because that's a true marketing moment. Now, there's plenty of great moments where social media has, the Arab Spring was powerful, and social media has turned around, government decisions and so on and so forth over the years. And so it's always powerful to see humanity come through social media. But from a marketing perspective, there's actually two epic moments that come to mind. One of them I had something to do with, and the other one I didn't. The one that I didn't, I did work with Maker's Mark Bourbon for a while. And,
nice.
And they're a great brand to work with. I love them. The Samuels family's fantastic. Rob is the CEO now. I worked with his father, Bill Samuels Jr., for a while. But after I left and didn't have anything to do with the brand, it was actually just a couple of years ago, they came out and announced that they were going to approach a shortage, much like I said Elijah Craig had approached the shortage with 18-year bourbon. They announced that they were going to have a shortage unless they cut the proof of the bourbon, basically watered it down and lowered it from 90 proof to 86 proof. And they made this announcement like on a Monday. And like by the following Monday, they completely reversed the decision and said, okay, we're not going to do that because of the outcry on social media. The fans of the brand, the ambassadors, the people that love Maker's Mark just went ballistic. And they just peppered them with, certainly they used phone and email as well, but social media was a very large amplifier of their frustration at that point, and it completely turned around what probably would have been a bad decision on the brand's part.
And that's the coolest part about social too, right? It allows you to kind of have that, if you want to call it, ultimate focus group right before you even release the product. And I think the best part with that situation is they then went back and reverted and said, hey, no, we're going to keep it, and that shows the power of social. And then also the the people that were advocating probably feel heard.
Exactly.
They feel like, yes, the brand is listening to me and they're making decisions based on what I say and what I think is important.
Yeah, it was a PR nightmare that turned into a really good PR success story for the brand. And there were even some people who were like, well, they probably just did that as a publicity stunt. Believe me, I worked with the brand for a while. They would not have done that as a publicity stunt. They love their fans and their customers and their ambassadors way too much to dangle something like that in front of them, without thinking it through. But I mean, obviously, it was a bad situation at the time, but it's good now. The other one that I did have something to do with, Cafe Press. When I was there for a couple of years. Cafe Press is a user-generated content platform. So when I explain Cafe Press to people, I say, okay, YouTube doesn't make videos. YouTube provides the player for you to upload the videos to. Well, Cafe Press doesn't design T-shirts and coffee mugs and mouse pads and shower curtains. They give you the opportunity to upload your designs to put on those products. So Cafe Press is basically a printing service for your designs. Over the years, Cafe Press has been around since 1999, so 15, 16 years. And over the years, there have been literally millions and millions and millions of designs uploaded to its servers. And there have been varying degrees of filtering and approval systems to make sure that the designs that are uploaded follow the content use policy, which is the policy that says, hey, no hate speech, can't violate copyright, it can't be pornography, that kind of stuff. And so there was an instance when I was there was unfortunately a period of time at Cafe Press when they had, for designers who uploaded designs, you could click a button and automatically adopt that design to every product. So you could upload a design of, let's say, a pony and put it on a coffee mug, but automatically put it on T-shirts, hats, shower curtains, everything else they had.
Gotcha.
So that on the surface sounds like a pretty cool, that's a neat, shortcut. We can just do that. Well, unfortunately, there was a problem in retrospect with that, because when you upload a design that has maybe sort of a humor angle to it, and maybe even adult, slightly inappropriate humor, and you hit that auto adopt button, it might put it on a baby bib. It might put it on a baby blanket, right? So that presents an opportunity for some conflict. It's not an intention on the side of the designer to offend anyone or put up something that's inappropriate, but the system allowed for it for a brief time. Well, we had a child advocacy group that pointed out some of these designs that had unfortunately not, been flagged by the reviewers, because the design in and of itself was fine. It may have been in poor taste, but Cafe Press isn't a tastemaker. Cafe Press is the mechanism to print it. And the design followed the content use policy, but the context, though, of having that adult-oriented design on a child's product made it very different. And so this child advocacy group pointed that out to us at one point, and they started, beating us up a little bit on the social channels. And so I actually worked very quickly, in retrospect and in comparison to how it could have been, very quickly to work with the legal team, the content use team, and the product team to get the designs down that they found and they pointed out, at least get them off the child products. But also, B, we needed to enhance the, flag as inappropriate button, make it bigger, more prominent, make sure people could easily, when they see a design, flag it so that we see it and take it down faster, and then incorporate some more policies to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen. And so being able to listen to your customers, respond to the concerns, which were absolutely valid, and fix something within your system that was potentially maybe not broken, but at least not perfect. That's always an epic moment to me, because you're serving the customer better that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then that's the true thing. It's like that whole advocacy part. If someone's out there, going through your website and letting you know your product failures and things like that, if you can act quickly like you did and bring everyone involved, it just allows for a true transparency with the customer. And ultimately it deafens, if you want to call the amplification of their anger. It feels like, when you just kind of listen and, hey, we're making these changes. And then also you made these internal changes to your website to make it more, friendly for people to flag content and stuff like that as they see it. That's awesome, Jason. Yeah. So now we're going to enter your mindset with some B-realisms. In the perfect world, where do you dream of living?
I've always wanted to manage, run a tiki bar on the beach somewhere. So
nice. I love it.
I'm thinking Caribbean. Don't really have a preference. Just somewhere where it's sunny and warm and not a lot of bad weather. That would be my ideal place.
A tiki bourbon bar.
Hey, there you go. Dude, that'd be awesome.
I see it in your future. I definitely see it in your future. So, and also, where are you at today, as far as in the world?
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm based.
Nice.
And which is also home of 95% of the world's bourbon is made here. So I'm in a good place for what I like to do.
You are the connoisseur of bourbon. You are the connoisseur, my man. I love it. So how do you typically like to start your day?
It's funny that you should ask that. I have 2 kids, and so I like to get up and have a cup of tea and breakfast with them and get them off to school. And then lately, I've actually changed my habits because for anybody who knows me or has seen me or whatnot, I'm a pretty big dude and I haven't taken very good care of my health over the years. And so I'm changing that, trying to change some habits. And so lately, because I have some back issues, I've been going to the Y and swimming.
Nice.
Doing 10 or 20 laps back and forth on the pool. And that loosens up my back and gets my blood going. And if I exercise at the beginning of the day. And I'm feeling a lot better doing that. So I'm hopefully going to continue to incorporate that into my daily routine. That puts me, after I get home and shower and everything, at about 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. And then I start my day typically, not every day, but most days, by sharing great content online. That's how I've built my Twitter following, and that's why I think a lot of people follow me online, because I read a lot of blogs in the industry, and I don't read everything. I skim headlines. I find things that appeal to me, but I typically will find 5, 10, 15 articles a day that I will share throughout the course of the day, not all at once. So I queue it up so that it spaces it out. And so that people who follow me on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn have a valuable piece of content that's useful to them coming from me on a regular basis. And that's, I guess, if I provide a service to the world through my social channels, that's what it is filtering and curating good content for folks in the marketing world.
And it's unbelievable how valuable that truly is when you take that daily approach to offer just great content, not thinking about yourself, not thinking about your brand or your business and your objectives, but just trying to find good content, like you said, skimming the headlines that are personal to you, that you feel are this great stuff. And that's awesome, because too many of us in social marketing do tend to think of ourselves first, and we don't think of, hey, let me just go find some awesome content today, and I'm going to share it because it works. Like you mentioned, it really does work, and the community cares.
And it serves both purposes, right? You get your fix of, hey, I need good inspiration. I need to learn something new from someone who knows a little bit more about something, an app or a tool that I don't. Right. So you feed that selfish need. But then while you're there, you just queue it up to share. And now all of a sudden you're being rather generous and altruistic and thinking about others with how you do it. It certainly doesn't make me a saint. But it makes me useful to people who are interested in the same type of stuff.
Absolutely. And I checked Jason's Twitter this morning. Jason has 94,215 followers. So he's doing something right over here. I'm telling you, I see the engagement. I see what you're doing. And ultimately, it's when your actions speak louder than words, it's everything. So take an insight to what Jason's strategy is on how he starts his morning, and just finding those awesome pieces of content, queuing them up, scheduling them so that they go out throughout the day and really provide that value to people. I think that's missing in social.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think most businesses who want to dive into social, if you can start from the point of trying to be useful to the audience you want to reach, and not necessarily selling to them, I think you'll be more successful than you will find you're failing.
Absolutely. So, can you tell us about what do you say is some of the best advice you've ever received?
Wow. I had a boss once who was, a good old country boy and from out in Western Kentucky, where they have a lot of horse farms and whatnot. And he had great sayings. And one of them that has always stuck with me is, a good philosophy to have is, if it happens once, shame on it. If it happens twice, shame on you. And it's kind of my, approach to making mistakes. If you make a mistake, that's fine. That mistakes happen. Shame on it. Just don't make that mistake again. Because if you do, then that's your problem. That's not by chance. So that's one thing. But I think the best advice I've ever received, though, I got from actually a life coach. And I know a lot of people think life coaches are a little hokey. But I was talking to a life coach once, and he told me that your happiness, your satisfaction with where you are in the world, personally or professionally, is a choice. You wake up every day and you can choose to be happy, or you can choose to be mad or sad or angry or hurt or whatever. Emotions happen, and yes, you're going to feel emotions, good and bad, but you absolutely can choose to wake up and say, you know what, I'm not going to let anything get in my way today. I'm not going to let anything get me down. I'm going to have a smile on my face. I'm going to be kind to people. And if bad stuff keeps happening, I'm just going to smile and soldier through it because I choose to be happy. And once I started really thinking that through and trying to apply it to how I approach the world, lots of stresses went away because I wasn't choosing to be stressed about them anymore.
Yeah, I think it's attitude is everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have that attitude, you really can achieve anything, and it makes those days where you're having to put out fires and stress and things like that a lot easier because hey, you know what? I'm happy. I'm doing the best I can. I'm learning from my mistakes, like you mentioned here. If it happens once, shame on it. If it happens twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm happy when I get taught a lesson in life, and sometimes those are the times you actually learn. We were talking with Kim Garst, and that was one of the funny things she said, and it's so true. It's like we don't tend to really go analytical on our successes. We tend to look at our failures and be like, why did this not work? And it's really interesting how we can really learn from that, our mistakes. So I like those two pieces of advice. Now, can you also share a personal habit that you feel is leading to your success on social media?
I think the personal habit for me that leads to success is I just have a genuine interest in stories from not just telling them, but also listening to them from others. I'm to put it into a real world context. Nothing makes me happier than at the end of the day, sitting at the end of the bar and just talking to whoever comes up. I'm a social butterfly in that regard. I'm interested in other people. I'm interested in hearing their stories, where they're from, that kind of stuff. And so if the internet is a bar, I'm going to belly up to it, as often as I can and chit chat with other people. It's not so much about the drinking as it is the socializing. I love hearing other people's stories, and that's my habit is being, curious about what other people have going on.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I started this podcast is to learn and listen and have awesome conversations. So Jason, you're giving me some awesome stuff just for my own life and personal experiences. And I'm going to have to see about some bourbon and the tiki bar that we're going to develop here for the future. But so now we're going to enter the hot seat where you can share some phenomenal resources and some real talk answers. Okay. So be real, Jason. If you could meet anyone for lunch today in the world, who would it be?
Jeez, oh, Pete. Lee. I think I would probably say that I have a real passion and appreciation for really good comedy. And so I think my answer would probably be, someone like David Letterman.
Yes.
Someone who knows how to craft a story, knows how to craft a joke, knows how to entertain a crowd. I'm really, really curious about what goes through the mindset of someone who creates really good, funny comedy. But, it's not just David Letterman, who I love and idolize, and I'm really sad he's going off the air. But, people like Jim Gaffigan, there's a ton of really great comedians out there that I would love to just see how their mind works, because I would love to be that someday. It'd be great to be able to, craft a good joke that just makes everybody laugh regardless of their background.
Yeah, and it's so awesome too because they do it so consistently. It's not just like a one-hit wonder, their joke. I mean, Dave Letterman has been doing it for how many years now?
Yeah.
20 plus years of my life. Yeah. That I've been seeing him on TV, and you can see the progression, but the consistency and his top tens and a lot of things stay the same. And so it's really interesting on how you can do that consistently and people will still watch. Yep. So absolutely. So do you have a favorite tool or internet resource or app that you like using on a daily basis?
I love any tool that makes me more efficient. Right. And I've used a number of different ones over the years, for the layman who just wants to share great content on social media, but doesn't want to get too technical with it. Buffer is fantastic. I love Buffer.
Absolutely.
I've actually started using Sendable, which is a little bit more advanced. It does everything that Buffer does in terms of queuing up and sharing content, but it'll also help you manage email and text messaging and stuff like that. So I use it for a little bit more complex stuff, and I use it through my agency. It's kind of what we use to share content from our agency social channels, and everybody collaborates to it. So those types of apps are the ones that I really get a kick out of. Probably the only other one that I would, bring your attention to, and this kind of goes along with kind of choosing to be happy and, taking care of yourself. There's a fantastic website and app out there called Headspace.
Oh, yeah.
And it basically takes you through a 10-minute or a 15-minute, based on your preferences, sort of meditation every day. It allows you to take a step back from the busyness of our life and, take a breath, focus on your body, focus on your breathing, and get back to a place of, homeostasis, if you will, that can help you sort of be centered and start with a clear mind every day, or reset to having a clear mind in the middle or at the end of the day. And I've absolutely been eating it up. I think if you subscribe to it, I think you can get the first like 10 deals for free, but if you subscribe to it, it's like $8 or $9 a month. It's really cheap. And, in terms of just taking care of yourself and keeping your brain uncluttered, I absolutely love it. I think it's at headspace.com.
Yeah, one of the best investments you could do is on yourself, obviously. And I think Headspace is just a revolutionary business because of what it does. It allows you to consistently progress in meditation and makes it easy. So it doesn't feel like it's overwhelming. It's not super long. It's not like these 30-minute or hour-long sessions that kind of just wipe out your day. But it's short, quick, and I think one of the best apps out there right now. So check it out, headspace.com. And shout out to them.
And just to add to that, and the thing that I liked about Headspace when I first started using it is it's not, a lot of people can think, meditation, that's all, hippie, right, Buddhist weird stuff. I'm not going to fool with that. The approach for Headspace is very it's not dressed up in any sort of pretension. It's all, hey, just take a couple deep breaths. Let's clear your brain. Relax for a second, calm down. And their approach is one that would appeal to people who are even skeptical of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, my father started doing it, and I would have thought he would be one of the last people to do Headspace, to be honest with you. And he's way active, and he loves it. And I think it's just, like you mentioned, about clearing up your mind and that clarity. Meditation has something for us social marketers that have a lot of different things going on, content ideas, and all these different things going on social channels. Just a little time for yourself, to take a break and breathe. And like you mentioned, it makes it so easy, so it's not so unapproachable. It's a very approachable way of doing it.
It is.
So tell us, do you have a favorite book right now that you could suggest to our listeners?
Man, I've got a ton of favorite books. I tell you, the one book that I've read recently that I think everybody that's in the business world, certainly, and even people who are not necessarily focused on business should read. It's a new book from my friend Chris Reimer. It's called Happy Work. And it just came out a few months ago. I read this book while I was on vacation in the fall. He sent me an advance copy before it came out. And it's not a business book, but it's a book about business. I think the cover, language calls it a parable, a business parable. And so it's a fictional story about a consultant, an efficiency consultant who comes into a company to try to help fix their, financial and communications problems, to help, kind of reboot the company. But the way that the story is told, the narrative of it, the way Chris kind of makes it a really good fiction book, but makes it about some solid business principles, and the whole sort of solution to this company's problem is putting the customer first and thinking about their needs first. So it definitely applies to the social marketing sort of world and mindset. I read that book in like 3 hours. It normally takes me 3 weeks to read a book. I mean, I don't have the attention span. I get distracted, et cetera, et cetera. I was so captivated by this thing. I was on vacation and trying to get away from the internet for a while, but I just rolled through this thing. It was such an easy read. It was so good. And it had really good sort of inspiring messages for my work. And you don't normally get that out of a fiction book. So Happy Work by Chris Reimer. Check that one out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to add it to my list too. I love those books like you mentioned where you just feel like you have to finish them, and you're just like it's such an easy read. You just actually finish them instead of that kind of 3-week or month-long process, and you kind of take it as you can, and because sometimes you do get distracted, but there's those type of writers that really just captivate you to make you want to finish it. I just reading like Kim Garth's book, and I had to finish it. I was just like, this is too good, and it was so easy to read. It just I had to get it done. So tell us, do you have a skill that you want to master in the future? Are you wanting to be a karate master and start dunking or anything cool?
I think the one thing that I would like to do that I've never been able to do is I would love to be able to play the guitar.
Yes.
The only musical instrument that I have any aptitude for whatsoever is the drums. And I played the drums not necessarily in a band, but just in my house. I had a trap set when I was a kid and played it, all through high school. And then I ended up selling the drums to help buy a car and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, I can keep a beat and I can play the drums. Not great, but I can fake it. But I've never been able to actually play, a musical instrument other than just keeping a beat. And so I'd love to learn how to play the guitar. And I would be perfectly fine with just playing an acoustic. I don't have to be a rock and roll star. I just love to be able to play a few chords, to complete a complete song and, and not sound like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and there's some really cool inventions out there. I can't think of the one, but it was on Shark Tank where it was like they could almost let you play every single song with using just like this cool little tool. And if I get a chance, I'll do a little research and send you that because I know it was really interesting. One of my buddies that was wanting to pick up guitar bought one for his son, and his son is now rocking on the guitar.
Nice.
So if you could develop any new business in the world, what would it be?
It's not necessarily a new business, but it certainly would be new to portions of the country that don't have it. If I had all the money in the world, I could just focus on a passion project. I would try to figure out how to equip Middle America with light rail. I think that, not only would it be more convenient for people and create lots of space in our lives to be able to, learn and read again. It would connect cities in a high-speed fashion that would allow people to live beyond just their local communities, which I think would be cool. And I think it would probably help with the environment as well, getting more commuters and cars off the roads. And I say that because I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky is actually within about a 6 or 7 hour car drive of about 80% of the U.S. population. And so if you could find a way to have reliable light rail, much like you see in cities like Portland and San Francisco and so on and so forth, and certainly in Europe, that would connect Louisville to Indianapolis to Chicago to Detroit to Columbus to Cincinnati to Huntington, West Virginia to Lexington, Kentucky to Nashville to Birmingham to St. Louis. You could really change the way economy happens, change the way people work, change where people work. If you could do good light rail in the middle of America, I think it changes the way the country operates. And I would love to pursue that. It's hypothetical in my brain. I don't know that if it's even feasible from a business standpoint. But if I won a ton of money in the lottery next week and could do whatever the hell I wanted to do, I think that would be a passion project that I would love to see, because I think that could have a monumental lasting impact on the world.
I completely agree. I think that there's such more of a need for faster, more convenient transportation throughout all of America. United States government, if you're listening, please take a listen. I think you and my man Elon Musk can combine something. Get the Hyperloop going. You know what I'm saying? So hey, let's make it quick. Let's get this thing going here.
But I don't want to rely on the government to do it. I want to do it like Richard Branson did in the United Kingdom.
Yep.
I want to do it privately.
Absolutely.
Make it so that the government can't screw it up, because normally when things are left to bureaucracy, it gets screwed up.
No doubt. I think we will need their help, probably just approving the land and all that kind of stuff. But I absolutely agree with you. I think it's going to be a private entrepreneur that makes transportation better. And I know Elon Musk is one that has mentioned that in LA and also just throughout the world with his Hyperloop idea. And I think, you get enough billionaire entrepreneurs together, you could actually make something happen. So if you're listening, Elon, talk to my man, Jason Falls. He's on Twitter. And I think you guys have an idea there.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. So one last question. Can you give us one last parting real talk thought? And then also, how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Sure. So my parting real talk thought, I think, is really kind of going back to a couple of things we've mentioned already. I've really gotten into a mode, and I'm, believe me, I have not taken care of myself, my health, mentally or physically, for a long time. And I'm kind of in that mode now, and I'm starting to see the first inklings of success, of losing weight, of having my blood count back from my doctor be healthier and all that kind of stuff. But I think I would just go back to really be real in your work, in your family, in your personal life. You have to reserve time to take care of yourself. And I'm learning that now as a 42-year-old. If I had known that when I was 22, my life would have been very different and probably a lot better. And so hopefully I'm learning it before it's too late. And that I can prolong my life still, even though I'm probably more than halfway done. But I think even if you just go to Headspace and meditate for 10 minutes a day, or even if you just go to the gym every morning and make sure you're getting your exercise in to help kick your body into gear for the day, or even if you're trying to get an extra nap in the middle of the day, because an extra little bit of sleep always helps us reset. Take care of yourself. Find time out of every day to take care of yourself. If I could leave that with everybody and everybody listen to it, the world would be a better place. And I'm just now learning that. So I don't have any great wisdom to pass on other than that's the path you need to walk down. And then to get a hold of me, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, man. There's a county commissioner in North Carolina named Jason Falls, and he hates me because I own Google, right? You type in Jason Falls and it's almost all me. But jasonfalls.com is a great sort of central place to find me. That's got links and whatnot to all my social networks. I'm typically Jason Falls on social networks. I'm at Jason Falls on Twitter. And certainly my agency is a great place to find me too. The website there is goelastic.com.
Well, you've been hanging out with my man Jason Falls and Travis Too Tall and Huff. I want to thank you for your time and keep being real. This podcast is proudly sponsored by realtimeoutsource.com, your social media management service for success.